Good afternoon, Henry.
Hi.
You're from Impact Accelerator Europe. What is it?
Impact Accelerator is part of the European Commission initiative about FiWare. FiWare is like future internet ware, so like software, hardware, FiWare. Future internet ware is how to drive European industry more competitive, and EU has issued 80 million euros for startups to engage in this area to help boost competitiveness of the European industry. We are helping with distributing 6 million of these 80 million euros in the Impact Accelerator. So we have made a program and suggested that and made application format for startups to go into in order to position themselves to be attractive enough to be amongst those 64 startups that we want to help with both money and also additional acceleration services like mentoring, courses, meetups, and what have you.
Where are you based?
So the whole of the Impact Accelerator Consortia, which is 4 companies, is a Spanish company, ISTI, which is a business school. There's an Italian company, Buongiorno, which is the subsidiary of NTT Docomo, is a Japanese telecommunications company, and Buongiorno works in mobile applications. Then we have SEA Ventures, which is from Germany, and then my company is from Denmark, Teknologiudvikling, which is a grants advisor helping other companies how to get access to public funds.
Great, you're here. Why now in Estonia?
So first of all, we have been running the Impact Accelerator Consortia and program for a while now and had our first deadlines before Christmas. And we will have additional 2 deadlines in 2015. And since in the first deadline there was no Estonian companies, we wanted to come here and ask, is there no interesting mobile technologies that can work in the lines of the FiWare technology and with and eager to also participate in the acceleration programs. So that's one thing. The other thing is that because of Impact, we have constructed a platform. It's called Funding Box. Funding Box is a platform where we have ability to invite people on board and position their projects. And as part of that, we have now today been discussing with the Estonian Development Forum and how the Development Fund, how we may also work here in Estonia with more initiatives of attracting public, successively also private funds to startups in Estonia.
Is it only for software, or is any hardware could be involved as well?
So FiWare is both software and hardware. The Impact Accelerator is mostly mobile solutions. So if you have a mobile, you need some mobile device, something. But what the mobile needs to do or can get is information that comes from pure software, could also come from hardware. So Internet of Things, attaching everything so you can meter out or read out or whatever, is very interesting also in a European competitive perspective. So it could be a merely hardware device, but it needs to be connected to the internet.
Does it need any intellectual property rights registered, or is it just idea presenting?
Yeah, so that's none of the program's decision. That is up to you as a startup. So if you have a good idea and you want to protect it, you can protect it. And if you develop something during the program, it's also yours. The program is about business acceleration, and the money you get from the EU, the grant that is distributed through Impact, you will get as with no strings attached, so to speak, except from being in the program, of course. We don't take equity, we don't want anybody on your board or whatever. So whatever the business decisions that are wise for you, protecting, not protecting, running faster than the others, that's up to you. And of course, some of that will be part of the discussions in the program, if it's sound to make this or not, but it has nothing to do as such with the program.
Does the startup need their own input, and how much is it?
Own what?
Own input to the total pot before we apply?
No, yeah, so that's interesting. This time it's almost a check. The check is then divided in for Impact 3 pieces at least, 25, 50 and 25%. But you don't have to match like you normally would. when you get public grants, when you match your own money like 30% or 50%, even 60% or more of the total budget. This time it's a grant, it's on the check, you can read the number, and this is what you get to get your business running and the program running for you.
I have one bit of an off-track question as well. This is about intellectual property rights in US and Europe. You're having a big fund now for startups. At the same time, apps won't be registered as inventions in Europe, and they are in US. Do you see it as a shortcoming for Europe, or do you see it as an advantage?
Yeah, that's interesting. That's an universal discussion. First of all, for the impact, which is part of this FIWARE initiative, FIWARE was made in order from EU and the Commission in order to give access to technology enablers for startups and young companies, or anybody basically, without licensing issues. So here you have, under the time frame of the FIWARE program, you have free to access technology enablers for your solution. So that's a philosophy the EU has applied. Unfortunately for some, that has also been applied into the assessment of, can you then in other parts IP protect your app or whatever software, and there are terms and conditions for doing that. Mostly we will read you cannot, versus in the US mostly you read you can. But there are, in my perspective, a lot of do's and don'ts in this that can actually make you protect what you want to protect, both processes and also bits and pieces of functional operations in whatever solution you have. Of course, is software as such alone as in an app is the hardest one, but as soon as you extend it onto a physical platform or piece of hardware or whatever, you're basically home safe again.
Okay. What are Estonia's shortcomings as an outsider? Can you tell us? You've been seeing it around a bit now.
I'm happy to be here. I've been knowing Estonia from the outside since a long time. I've been working in Connect Denmark, which is a network of experienced people wanted to give for like almost like paying forward their experience and expertise to startups, to entrepreneurs. And this network was inspired by an activity already from the US in San Diego, and similar network was established in Estonia. So I've been meeting up with the leaders of this Estonian network, and it was very, very hard for them to get it going. First of all, because the notion of ecosystem was nowhere near there at the time when they started. They were maybe not the first, but they were one of the pioneers of trying to make an Estonian network ecosystem of people with engagement in the startup area, and they basically didn't make it. So I was very interested to see what was coming and going on here, because that's part of what I like a lot. I'd be very active in the Danish and the Copenhagen ecosystem of startups. What I find coming in from the outside is you have a lot of activities going on. These guys that I know were far too early or maybe ran down the wrong alley. You have a lot of things going on. That comfort me a lot. But it's obviously also still in a startup ecosystem phase. So some of the things you're doing here I've seen done before in other places, but I also see you invent your own ways, which is key. So you're not just copying, running 3 or 4 years after the others, you're also advancing in other areas, which is very, very comforting. I would like to see ecosystems for startups and growth companies more broadly international. I want to see more interaction. You may not find your next employee just next door. You might find them in Copenhagen or Madrid or whatever. And this is interesting. Today in a meeting with EDF, figuring out how they want to drive acceleration of startups in different verticals, interesting to learn about, also interesting to feedback to and say, hey, we've seen some of this before, maybe there are other ways of doing it or supplementary ways of doing it. Yeah.
And final question, what are your recommendations for our startups here today?
I think I think that the startups here, or maybe that's just generic to startup, most of those who make it big are with global potential, not necessarily reaching the globe right away, but they should understand that their competitors are people sitting in Japan, in Madrid, people sitting in Silicon Valley doing what you're doing right now here. And some that I meet never realize that before they run over or basically just stops because their business never get off the ground. So they first of all need to understand better what is going on out there and why am I better than that. And then it's always interesting to understand what is your ambition. So show your passion, show your ambition, show what you want to build. Not just that you build some technology, but also want to build a business. So maybe you're not alone because you're the technology guy. Make sure you also have some business guys or people who understand or can work with you on bringing this sort of in beyond technology up to a level of what are we solving, what are the business issues, why would our customers pay for this? And not just because it's fantastic, shiny technology.
Thank you again coming over here to Estonia, and we hope to see you around.
Interesting being here, and I'm sure I'm going to be back soon. Yeah.
Leo for Invention News, Tallinn.